Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Gargoyles episode review. Today we are wrapping up grief. What would you do if you had the power of life and death at your command? And unlike Light in Death Note, you are completely unaccountable, free to use that power as you will. That's the question our favorite sociopath, Jackal, answers. It's not going to be pretty, but the Gargoyles are ready for action. Or are they? Not when they're so old they can barely walk. The world is at the Anubis-infused Jackal's mercy. It's up to the Emir to make a choice. You can catch up on the last episode, read it, or watch it. Play God. The conversation between Anubis and the Emir continues. Anubis says death is fair because it happens to everyone. Okay. The Earth cannot support so many people if no one died. Alright, well, here's a little side note here. If no one died, then you wouldn't have to have the Earth support anyone. You couldn't starve to death. There'd just be no death. You would just exist. I don't know if you'd grow old and be a tottering wreck or just not grow old. I don't know. But if no one can die, then, well, there's not really a worry about resources trying to keep people alive, is there? Well, the Emir doesn't care anyway. He just wants his son back. And if Anubis will not give him his son, he will take him. How? By becoming the Anubis avatar. No, not with a blue arrow on his head or blue skin. He will channel the jackal-headed god into his own body and control his will. I'm not really sure how this works, because technically an avatar is something like a proxy, and should act in the will of the one inhabiting the vessel. You know, it's like a little vehicle. In this case, the one inhabiting him would be Anubis, so his will would not change at all. And I think the Emir did not watch Pet Sematary. Here we get a little bit more detail of a view here on Anubis. Just got some Egyptian old school clothing on. Well, of course, Goliath can't keep his nose out of this matter, partly because he's chained to the wall next to the conversation. Goliath rises to stop him, but the Emir is dead set on getting his kid back. Who can blame him? Goliath and Angela try to pull the ceiling down. Yeah, they do. They succeed, but only to a point. That's the problem with chaining gargoyles to a stone pillar that's thousands of years old. Seeing as they're being such a pain in the butt, the Emir has the gargoyles removed by the pack. Coyote has the brilliant idea of shooting the ropes off the prisoners and then walking them to the chamber that the pack will lock them in. Okay, this would be like transporting a prisoner from Arkham by taking off their straitjackets first, and then just sort of like letting them walk ahead of you. Again, who was programming this robot? And where's all this light coming from in this burial chamber? And why is there a burial chamber under the Sphinx? I don't know. Needless to say, there's a throwdown between the gargoyles and the pack. Elisa manages to throw a spear through Coyote's middle, despite the fact that she's never been known to be some sort of expert spear thrower here. And he blasts a hole through the wall with his laser. The burial chamber gets trashed. Great. So much for cultural icons. It's odd that there's a burial chamber in the Sphinx, but, you know, maybe there's a secret tunnel that leads to one of the pyramids, and that's where they are now. Who can tell? Or maybe there's, you know, some sort of king buried in there. And Coyote 3.0 is getting his butt kicked in this episode. He's got a spear through his middle. His back's been chewed up by Bronx. He's just taking it on the chin here. The right to be a god. Props to you if you recognize that Wesker line from Resident Evil. The Emir has a scroll of Thoth, which will allow him to become the Avatar. He says the magic words, which are very simple. In the name of Osiris, Isis, and Set, let the spirit of Anubis flow into this vessel. But as the lightning of Anubis is about to strike, Jackal butts in, literally. He shoves the Emir out of the way and takes possession. The animation is great here, though. And, you'll notice that Anubis will look different depending on who the avatar is. Jackal just shoves the Emir out of the way. Now, things are about to get really weird and completely wrong. Jackal is creepy enough as his usual self, but now he's downright horrifying. He looks like he's taking a page out of Wolf's book and becoming a were-creature. He also has he's very elongated and toothy. Oh, it's just nasty. You gotta see it. The pack comes in. Coyote finally wakes up enough from his naivete to realize that this is not what Xanatos wants. It's too late, though. Jackal accelerates time on the robot, turning him into a pile of rust. Another coyote bites the dust, or turns to rust. When Hyena whines about her brother ruining yet another relationship, he turns her and Wolf into a baby and a puppy, respectively. So we know that the power can accelerate or reverse the effects of time on the body. Oh, look at them, they're so cute. Actually, no, this is even more disturbing. And you'll notice that her hands are not gloved or whatever they are, cut off, I don't know. They're just like regular hands. But I challenge you to imagine that picture with her hands being the spiky gold hands that she has as an adult, and you not being really creeped out. Wolf is cute. Jackal faces the Emir and says he will give the gift of death to the world, and then he will reunite the Emir with his son. Yeah, I don't think that's quite what he had in mind. The Gargoyles and Elisa try to stop him, but Jackal accelerates time on them. Now they're so weak that they can barely stand up. Now, it was supposed to be that he was trying to kill them with the age, kind of like he did with Coyote, but because they age at like half the speed, his 100 years or whatever it was only turned into 50. But I don't know how this works with Elisa. I mean, unless she's like 120 something. I don't know. Whatever. Ew. Goliath does not look good as an old person. He looks like a mummy. Anyhow, Jackal declares that it is time to start the purge. No, not that purge. The one where he wipes out every living thing on Earth. That one. Because apparently that's a goal he has. Me, personally, I'd want to rule everyone, not wipe them out. Kind of not fun being ruler of a bunch of skeletons. According to Greg, Jackal is a sociopath. He knows how to remain human enough to further his schemes. Hyena is a total psychopath. Nowadays, there's not much of a recognized difference between the types according to the mental health community. As I've said before, it's really more lumped under one category there. Antisocial personality. Well, in keeping of the theme of, is this still a Disney show aimed at young people? He sends a black cloud across the earth. It swoops over 2 crocodiles who are waddling toward the Nile. When it passes, all that's left are bones. Oh, that's not graphic at all. What the crap, Jackal? What did crocs ever do to you? Cruelty to humans usually starts with cruelty to animals, I'm telling you. Sing Kumbaya. Goliath begs the Emir to act. Must Goliath lose his daughter as the Emir lost his son? Angela and Goliath gather themselves and attack Jackal. He tosses them off. It is kind of pathetic looking there. And it's time for broken hips, guys. Jackal is still luxuriating in his power. I am death, he roars. No, Smog, you are not death. You're the avatar of death. And you are not even the destroyer of worlds. Here he is grinning. He reminds me of every Disney animal villain ever. The black cloud wipes out an entire city. It doesn't just kill everyone, it actually ruins the buildings, making them look as if they've been sitting vacant for thousands of years. So I guess he accelerated time on the whole place. Oof. Doesn't that hit the news somewhere? Or do they figure it was just some sort of bombing? It's Egyptian, so maybe they wrote it off as a terrorist attack or maybe a warring country. Who knows? Maybe they were able to shut it up totally. Maybe the Illuminati or something. Oh wow, I just thought of if the Illuminati got the power of Anubis. Why would you have a creature that was able to be controlled so easily as the god of death when he can literally wipe out the entire world? I don't know. Seems kind of, a faulty plan there. This pretty picture, though, that wiped out city. The sky is very beautiful. And this is after the cloud here, but we're supposed to be okay with seeing this. Like, this gets past the censors because we don't see people die. Okay, again, a lot of times when you can't see the death, the violence, whatever the graphic nature of a show because of censors, you get something way worse because they have to make your imagination created for them. Oof. Goliath tosses the Emir the papyrus that's sitting on the altar. He reads the spell and puts the spirit of Anubis into himself, as it should have been back when we first started. He looks like a rounded feline here, rather than this crazy, rock and roll jackal. what the heck kind of god is shuffled around so easily? I mean, seriously. I love the animation here, though. And it's like white energy envelops Jackal and then pours into the Emir. Well, the Emir says he now understands. Yeah, I'm not sure why becoming the Avatar makes him understand, and it did not make Jackal understand, though. Maybe it just heightens what's already in the person, like the Eye of Odin, which would make sense. And here's even got a different outfit on. He's got like a white robe on. It's like Anubis, the hippie version. Side note, what would you do if you had the power of a life and death for the entire world, even if it was just for a few minutes? He says that while he cannot undo what is done, he cannot restore the dead. So that town and the Crocs are SOL. He can restore the energy, and by that he means make the Gargoyles and Elisa young and Hyena and Wolf old again. Well, now, that's rather interesting. He could, in theory, put a spell on a person so that their energy is constantly going back to them. Maybe. It might only work when he causes the energy to change in the first place. But, I mean, doesn't he? Isn't he the one who makes people old? Like, he is the god of death here. I don't understand why the god of death would have the power to make people older or younger. Like, the younger is the weirdest part of that power. Like, usually in, these mythos where there's a specific deity governing death, they're not so much the one who causes the death. Like, they're not some evil being who goes out and murders things. They're just kind of there to make sure that basically when a person's time's up, they go to the right place, and they may also be the ruler of that place. So whether it's Charon, who helps you cross the river Styx, or actually Hades or Thanatos, who actually are gods of death and rule the underworld, it's not like they're out there taking souls by force. They're just collecting them. Anyway, all this magic nonsense causes the Sphinx to crumble on the inside. Energy is gathering around the Emir, telling us that now is a good time to leave. The Gargoyles and Elisa evacuate. The Sphinx glows and smokes, then settles down. They don't know what happened to the pack or the Emir. G says that if there is any justice in the world, the Emir will be reunited with his son. I don't know how this justice is supposed to exist, or who is supposed to administer it, frankly. And it's just sort of like supposed to work, like some sort of decentralized, autonomous organization, or what? Well, he apparently sees it as a force, kind of like gravity, except that instead of falling flat when you try and jump off a building, you get to rejoin your dead son in the afterlife. Alright, Goliath. Whatever. And 2020 moment here. Alright, we know that Severius survived sinking to the bottom of Loch Ness, which is super deep, in a sub, followed by 2 magical Leopleurodons. But, of course, the Goon Squad didn't. Somehow, even though they were in the very same part of the sub. Anyway, but okay, they did not survive, but the pack does somehow after the Sphinx collapses on top of them. Yep. All right. And a bunch of light shoots out of the Sphinx head. Looks like a migraine there. Elisa asks how Goliath and Angela were able to tackle Jackal while they were old. He says the Gargs age at half the speed of humans, and they don't age when they sleep. See, this is what I was saying earlier. But, I would like to not age when I sleep. That would be cool. I think it's kind of unfair that we gotta age while we sleep. I'm not even up enjoying anything. According to Greg, this aging thing was a cheat. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding at all, because Elisa, you should have been dead then, because you and Angela are the same age. Well, I guess Angela's a little bit younger, but yeah, so that's even worse then. Anyway, this info dump was made possible by Elisa Maza, by the way. Final thoughts. I'm sure Xanatos was watching this, or will be watching this. How will all these developments and revelations change how he lives? Will they, even? How much will he believe? When one knows about an afterlife, or at least believes in one, their day-to-day living should change. If there is no afterlife, then it matters not what we do here. If there is, however, an afterlife, you'd better watch your step. You'd also better ally with the right deity, namely whoever's running the good part of that afterlife. The ancient Vikings thought that Valhalla belonged to the warrior, and thus they lived as such. Many Muslims believe that if they die as a martyr, they will get virgins and a wonderful paradise life in heaven. Thus, they will commit homicide bombings to die as said martyr rather than waiting for someone to take them out as a martyr. In other religions, they believe that if you are good, you'll get rewards and go to heaven. Thus, they try to be good. In Christianity, it's not so much being good as believing in Christ, and at which point, when you die, you will go to heaven. Xanatos believes in himself, primarily. He does not want to die, meaning that he thinks this life is far superior to whatever will come after. 2020 moment, he really doesn't change at all in his living. If anything, he ramps up his attempts at immortality by trying to capture yet another Fae. You'd think he'd learn his lesson with this one, but I guess he doesn't know he's a Fae yet. I mean, unless... I would think Puck would figure out some way to let him know here that Anubis is a Fae. Stick with the Fae, and you have... stick with the Fae you have, and be grateful for him. Puck. What changed was his relationship with the Gargoyles, though, and that was only after they played a critical role in saving his son from Oberon and Titania, who wanted to take him back to Avalon. I'm still wondering if Titania would have allowed this if Goliath hadn't stepped in, since she had arranged all this for the sole purpose of allowing her daughter to keep her grandson, and the Gargoyles to act as his guardians, and Puck to stay in the human world, like he wants. And I kind of feel sorry for Xanatos here. I mean, he took years to set all this up. I would love to know how he came in contact with Ymir and learned all this stuff, because it's not really something you talk about at a cocktail party. Hey, yeah, by the way, I'm an Ymir, and I know how to do ancient Egyptian magic and can actually take control of the death god. Oh, okay. Anyway, how do you recruit someone like the Ymir anyway? How do you make sure that he's going to do it right? I'm assuming that Xanatos heard about the man's interest in the occult, perhaps because the Ymir made some controversial claims. Hey, you think he's in the Illuminati, and that's how he figured it out? I mean, I don't know. This all happened before David was in the Illuminati. The Edge was before that. So, I don't know. I don't doubt that the Ymir losing his son was something David played on. It's this desire for a life rather than for a death that makes the Ymir an unexpected and welcome antagonist. He's not after vengeance. He's after the life of his son. It's still selfish, though, since bringing his son back would force the boy to eventually die again and likely experience the pain of losing his father, too, if the Ymir goes first next time. Well, that was quite the episode. What did you think about it? And next time, by the way, is the Hound of Ulster, which is not nearly as good as this one, but we do get another Fae. So, anyway, you can comment here. You can comment on the blog. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Do all the things. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.